Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to tit-bits on business and finance with me. After those 5 days of press conferences in which the finance minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, announced a 20 lakh crore stimulus package, which truly never was. After that, she gave an interview to the Indian Express explaining the rationale for the package and, of course, defending it. To us, it remains a controversial piece of a package, and its size, its effect, and its overall depth remain a matter of challenge. Experts say that at best, under the package, about 2 lakh crores of rupees will reach the beneficiaries and not more than that, which is a fraction of the 20 lakh crore stimulus that was promised to us. As we said, Bernstein, an investment firm from America, calls the stimulus package a lost opportunity, an aimless initiative, and one where numbers were just added up in order to match them to make them comparable with stimulus packages announced by countries abroad. So, let's come to the interview of the finance minister. The finance minister, as we said, was defending and explaining the package. She said that while formulating this package, the government has been mindful of the lessons that were learned between 2008 to 2013 in the aftermath of the global crisis that took place in 2008. She said that the government wanted to avoid the mistakes which were committed, which is reckless spending in order to revive the economy. Thus, she said at the outset that the lessons of 2008 2013 have been considered by the government in formulating the package. She further said that the suggestions of everybody were heard and considered, and this is what came finally after considering all of them. She further said that the government has taken into account the experience of other nations in formulating this kind of a stimulus package, and she defended to say that it was not just a supply side package, it was also a demand side package, because according to her, finally, the money which will reach the beneficiaries will only create a demand in the economy, and thus the package, according to her, takes into account demand and supply, both which need to be revived in the economy. She said that the package is for the benefit of everyone, every sector has been taken into account, and she then said that she intends to seriously work on rationalization of expenditure, because finally government finances will get mended in that process. Mr. Sitharaman further said that it is too early to look into the assessment of the contraction of the economy at this point of time, or the impact of the package on the fiscal deficit. She said that it's too early in the day. No one knows what is going to happen. No one knows, she says, how will the COVID crisis pan out. No one knows how will it end. She says no one has an answer, and nobody knows whether this will be enough or more should have been done, or of course less should have been done. In such a situation, she said that she is open, they are ready for listening, they are ready for anything that needs to be done in order to make it meaningful. So this was the gist of the finance minister's interview to Indian Express. Her primary contention was that the government did not want to commit the same mistakes which were committed between 2008 to 2013, which is reckless lending, reckless investments in order to revive the economy. That gets us to the theme of the day. What was this crisis in 2008? How was it handled? And whether it is comparable to today's crisis, and whether those lessons that were learned by the government and by the world at large still stand. So let's come to 2008. The 2008 was a global banking crisis which originated in America in the West. It was caused because American banks were overheated. They had overlent to the real estate market. Their exposure was too high. The NPAs in the sector had ballooned so much that banks collapsed. There was a complete meltdown in the financial system in the West. Banks like Lehman Brothers, Wachovia, Chase, etc. collapsed, and that's where the crisis was triggered. At that point of time, the US government and also governments in the EU nation decided to spend. They decided to pump money into the economy in order to protect growth. Thus, the American government, the Federal Bank of America, the Reserve Bank of America decided to pump money into the system. Within a matter of a year, the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve Bank of America swelled from $800 billion to $4,500 billion. That was within a year's time. They pumped money into the economy. Even the EU did that. The EU's central bank's balance sheet swelled from 1 trillion euro to 4.5 trillion euro in a matter of a year's time. That was to protect growth, and they managed to perhaps do it to a relative success. India also adopted a similar strategy. The Indian government also decided to pump money into the system in order to protect growth. And because of that, that was a point of time where banks indulged in reckless lending. That was a point of time when the Reserve Bank of India, in a matter of a year, brought down the interest rates from 7% to 3.5%, and the fiscal deficit of the government went up from 2.5% to 6.5% in a year. The purpose was to spend, to pump money into the economy in order to protect growth. Growth did get protected for a certain period of time, but it left a lot of toxic effects on the Indian economy. Inflation shot up, fiscal deficit shot up, the government's finances suffered, the current account deficit gap widened, balance of payments became unstable, the overall financial stability of the system got shaken. The bank NPA crisis also came at that point of time. Those were the effects that came on our system that destabilized the Indian economy, and a crisis emerged finally in 2013-14, which is symbolized by the NPA crisis of banks, which we have not yet been able to resolve. Thus, this was 2008-13, and that is what happened at that point of time. All countries in the world followed the same pattern in order to battle the crisis, the meltdown that took place at that point of time. India was no exception. Let's come to 2020, because the finance minister says that the lessons of 2008 are relevant even now. In our opinion, we beg to differ, for the simple reason that the crisis which has taken place now is completely different from what it was in 2008. In 2008, India faced what we would call an imported crisis. It was a collapse of Western banks which had its ripple effects in India, and our system also got stabilized. But then India was relatively insulated at that point of time, for the simple reason that the Indian economy has been founded largely on the domestic demand. It is an inward looking economy. We don't so much depend on exports. Thus, if there was a crisis internationally, India was insulated because it was not relying on international trade for its economy. That is not what has happened at the moment. At the moment, the crisis is real. The real economy has been affected. The persons right to the bottom have been affected, because of which shops have closed, services have shut down, businesses are closing. And why is the real economy affected this time? It's because of a government order of imposing a lockdown. Thus, unlike 2008, this time we are seeing the Indian economy being affected directly. Everybody is being directly impacted. The losses are direct, the suffering is direct, and you can see that from the effect on the migrant labor. Thus, unlike 2008, at this moment, the real economy got affected. It has been badly damaged and suffering. And unlike 2008, at that point of time, it largely remained an imported crisis. But this time, the crisis has become a homegrown crisis. The coronavirus is impacting the Indian population big time, and we are seeing the numbers rise. Thus, while the crisis or the virus may have come from abroad, but now it's a homegrown crisis which is directly impacting everybody. Job losses are taking place, business closures are taking place, and more importantly, because of that, incomes are falling, demand is being decimated, and the economy is imminently into a recession. We are facing a situation where right up to the bottom, the migrant labor is facing problems, liquidity is being impacted, and most importantly, asset prices have been diminishing. If today somebody is in a crisis of liquidity and he wants to sell his real estate assets, he might not get a buyer. Thus, unlike 2008, this time's crisis is direct, visible, palpable, and real for all of us. All of us are suffering because of the government order of a lockdown, and thus trying to say that just because in 2008 the government pumped in money, which she says was recklessly pumped in, to a certain extent she's right, that doesn't mean that this time you can avoid the pumping in of money. We are certainly not saying that money needs to be pumped in recklessly, but we are certainly saying that it needs to be pumped in adequately and prudently, which is what the stimulus has not done. The ability of the economy to earn has been locked because of government order. It is the government which has caused this damage to the enterprises, and it is the government which will now have to spend in a bigger volume such that direct relief comes to all those who have been affected. All those who have suffered cash flow losses because of these months of closure need to be directly compensated by the government, and that's what is lacking in this stimulus. We are repeating, we don't need to be reckless, but we need to be prudent, we need to be adequate. The government needs to remember that it is its order, its mandatory order that locked down the economy, locked down people's incomes, and now it is a direct responsibility of the order of the government to give direct relief to all those businesses, to all those citizens whose incomes, whose livelihoods have suffered because of this order. That's where we think that 2008 is different from 2020. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
हमारे घरों में भी बच्चे होते हैं जो हमसे प्यार दुलार की आस करते हैं।
हमारा भी जीवन साथी है जिसको हमारे ड्यूटी से घर आने का इंतजार होता है।
हमारे घर में भी एक बूढ़ी माँ है जिनके लिए आज भी हम ही आंखों के तारे हैं।
लेकिन हम हमारे घरों में नहीं हैं। आपकी सुरक्षा में कोई कसर न रहे, इसलिए हम अपने प्रियजनों से दूर हैं।
हम में से ही कुछ तो अब इतने दूर जा चुके हैं कि वो वापस अपने घरों को लौट भी नहीं पाएंगे।
हमें गर्व है कि हमारे कंधों पे मुंबई शहर के नागरिकों की सुरक्षा की जिम्मेदारी है। हमारे जज्बे और बलिदान को व्यर्थ न जाने दे। इस संकट के समय में आप घर पे रहे, सुरक्षित रहे।
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.